4Q38 Deuteronomy K1 Language, Hebrew Date 30, 1 BC Location, Qumran Cave 4 Deuteronomy 5:28 Yahweh heard the voice of your words, when you spoke to me, and Yahweh said to me, I have heard the voice of the words of this people, which they have spoken to you. They have well said all that they have spoken. 29 Oh, that there were such a heart in them, that they would fear me, and keep all my commandments always, that it might be well with them, and with their children forever. 30. Go tell them, return to your tents. 31 But as for you, stand here by me, and I will tell you all the commandment, and the statutes, and the ordinances, which you shall teach them, that they may do them in the land which I give them to possess it. 32 You shall observe to do therefore as Yahweh your God has commanded you. You shall not turn away to the right hand, or to the left. Deuteronomy 11:6 And what he did to Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, the son of Reuben, how the earth opened its mouth, and swallowed them up with their households, their tents, and every living thing that followed them, in the middle of all Israel. 7 But your eyes have seen all of Yahweh's great work which he did for you. 8 Therefore you shall keep all the commandment, the statutes and the judgments which I command you today, that you may be strong and multiply, and go in and possess the land, where you go over the Jordan to possess it. 9 And that you may prolong your days in the land, which Yahweh swore to your fathers to give to them and to their offspring, a land flowing with milk and honey. 10 For the land, where you go in to possess, isn't like the land of Egypt that you came out of, where you sowed your seed, and watered it with your foot, as a garden of herbs. 11 But the land, where you go over to possess it, is a land of hills and valleys, which drinks water from the rain of the sky. 12 A land which Yahweh your God cares for, Yahweh your God's eyes are always on it from the beginning of the year even to the end of the year. 13 It shall happen, if you shall listen diligently to my commandments which I command you today, to love Yahweh your God, and to serve him with all your heart, and with all your soul. Deuteronomy 32:17 They sacrificed to demons, not God, to gods that they didn't know, to new gods, that came up recently, which your fathers didn't dread. 18 Of the rock who became your father, you are unmindful, and have forgotten God who gave you birth. 22 For a fire is kindled in my anger, that burns to the lowest Sheol, devours the earth with its increase, and sets the foundations of the mountains on fire. 23 I will heap evils on them, I will spend my arrows on them. 25 Outside the sword will bereave, and in the rooms, terror, on both young man and virgin, the nursing infant with the gray-haired man. 26 I said that I would scatter them afar, I would make their memory to cease from among men. 27 Were it not that I feared the provocation of the enemy, lest their adversaries should judge wrongly, lest they should say, our hand is exalted. Yahweh has not done all this. 4Q38 Deuteronomy K2 Language, Hebrew Date, before 68 AD Location, Qumran Cave 4 Deuteronomy 19:8 If Yahweh your God enlarges your border, as he has sworn to your fathers, and gives you all the land which he promised to give to your fathers. 9 If you keep all this commandment to do it, which I command you today, to love Yahweh your God, and to walk ever in his ways, then you shall add 3 cities more for yourselves, in addition to these 3. 10 This is so that innocent blood will not be shed in the middle of your land which Yahweh your God gives you for an inheritance, leaving blood guilt on you. 11 But if any man hates his neighbor, lies in wait for him, rises up against him, strikes him mortally so that he dies, and he flees from these cities. 13 I shall not pity him, but you shall purge the innocent blood from Israel that it may go well with you. 14 You shall not remove your neighbor's landmark, which they of old time have set, in your inheritance which you shall inherit, in the land that Yahweh your God gives you to possess. 15 One witness shall not rise up against a man for any iniquity, or for any sin, in any sin that he sins. At the mouth of 2 witnesses, or at the mouth of 3 witnesses, shall a matter be established. 16 If an unrighteous witness rises up against any man to testify against him of wrongdoing. Deuteronomy 20:6 What man is there who has planted a vineyard, and has not used its fruit? Let him go and return to his house, lest he die in the battle, and another man use its fruit. 7 What man is there who has pledged to be married a wife, and has not taken her? Let him go and return to his house, lest he die in the battle, and another man take her. 8 The judges shall speak further to the people, and they shall say, what man is there who is fearful and faint-hearted? Let him go and return to his house, lest his brother's heart melt as his heart. 9 It shall be, when the officers have finished speaking to the people, that they shall appoint captains of armies at the head of the people. 10 And when you draw near to a city to fight against it, then proclaim peace to it. 11 It shall be, if it makes you answer of peace, and opens to you, then it shall be, that all the people who are found therein shall become forced laborers to you, and shall serve you. 12 If it will make no peace with you, but will make war against you, then you shall besiege it. 13 When Yahweh your God delivers it into your hand, you shall strike every male of it with the edge of the sword. 14 But the women, the little ones, the livestock, and all that is in the city, even all its plunder, you shall take for plunder for yourself. You may use the plunder of your enemies, which Yahweh your God has given you. 15 Thus you shall do to all the cities which are very far off from you, which are not of the cities of these nations. 16 But of the cities of these peoples, that Yahweh your God gives you for an inheritance, you shall save alive nothing that breathes. 17 But you shall utterly destroy them, the Hittite, the Amorite, the Canaanite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite, as Yahweh your God has commanded you. 18 That they not teach you to follow all their abominations, which they have done to their gods. So would you sin against Yahweh your God? 19 When you shall besiege a city a long time, in making war against it to take it, you shall not destroy its trees by wielding an axe against them, for you may eat of them. You shall not cut them down, for is the tree of the field man, that it should be besieged by you. Deuteronomy 21:16 Then it shall be, in the day that he causes his sons to inherit that which he has, that he may not give the son of the beloved the rights of the firstborn before the son of the hated, who is the firstborn. Deuteronomy 23:21 When you vow a vow to Yahweh your God, you shall not be slack to pay it, for Yahweh your God will surely require it of you, and it would be sin in you. 23 You shall observe, and do that which has gone out of your lips, whatever you have vowed to Yahweh your God as a free will offering, which you have promised with your mouth, you must do. 24 When you come into your neighbor's vineyard, then you may eat of grapes your fill at your own pleasure, but you shall not put any in your container. 25 When you come into your neighbor's standing grain, then you may pluck the ears with your hand, but you shall not move a sickle to your neighbor's standing grain. Deuteronomy 24:1 When a man takes a wife and marries her, then it shall be, if she finds no favor in his eyes, because he has found some unseemly thing in her, that he shall write her a certificate of divorce, and put it in her hand, and send her out of his house. 2 When she is departed out of his house, she may go and be another man's wife. 3 If the latter husband hates her, who took her to be his wife, and write her a certificate of divorce, and puts it in her hand, and sends her out of his house, or if the latter husband die, who took her to be his wife. Deuteronomy 25:19 Therefore it shall be, when Yahweh your God has given you rest from all your enemies all around, in the land which Yahweh your God gives you for an inheritance to possess it, that you shall blot out the memory of Amalek from under the sky. You shall not forget. Deuteronomy 26:1 It shall be, when you have come into the land which Yahweh your God gives you for an inheritance, possess it, and dwell in it. 2 That you shall take some of the first of all the fruit of the ground, which you shall bring in from your land that Yahweh your God gives you. You shall put it in a basket, and shall go to the place which Yahweh your God shall choose, to cause his name to dwell there. 3 You shall come to the priest, who shall be in those days, and tell him, I profess today to before Yahweh, 1, your God, that I have come to the land which Yahweh swore to our fathers to give us. 4 The priest shall take the basket out of your hand, and set it down before Yahweh your God's altar. 5 You shall answer, and say before Yahweh your God, my father was a Syrian ready to perish. He went down into Egypt, and lived there, few in number. There he became a great, mighty, and populous nation. 18 Yahweh has declared today that you are a people for his own possession, as he has promised you, and that you should keep all his commandments. 19 He will make you high above all nations that he has made, in praise, in name, and in honor, and that you may be a holy people to Yahweh your God, as he has spoken. Deuteronomy 27:1 Moses and the elders of Israel commanded the people, saying, Keep all the commandment which I command you today. 1 In this scroll, the name, Yahweh, is written in the Paleo-Hebrew script, unlike the rest of the scroll. Fork 3:8b Deuteronomy K3 Language, Hebrew. Date, about 50 AD Location, Qumran Cave 4 Deuteronomy 30:16 For I command you today to love Yahweh your God, to walk in his ways, and to keep his commandments, his statutes, and his ordinances, that you may live and multiply, and that Yahweh your God may bless you in the land where you go in to possess it. 17 But if your heart turns away, and you will not hear, but are drawn away, and worship other gods, and serve them. 18 I denounce to you today, that you will surely perish. You will not prolong your days in the land where you pass over the Jordan to go in to possess it. 4Q39 Deuteronomy L Language, Hebrew. Date, about 50 BC Location, Qumran Cave 4 Deuteronomy 10:12 Now, Israel, what does Yahweh your God require of you, but to fear Yahweh your God, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve Yahweh your God with all your heart, and with all your soul. 14 Behold, to Yahweh your God belongs heaven, and the heaven of heavens, the earth, with all that is therein. 15 Only Yahweh had a delight in your fathers to love them, and he chose their offspring after them, even you above all peoples, as it is today. Deuteronomy 28:67 In the morning you will say, I wish it were evening, and at evening you will say, I wish it were morning, for the fear of your heart which you will fear, and for the sights which your eyes will see. 68 Yahweh, will bring you into Egypt again with ships, by the way of I said to you that you would never see it again. There you will sell yourselves to your enemies for male and female slaves, and nobody will buy you. Deuteronomy 29:3 The great trials, which your eyes saw, the signs, and those great wonders but Yahweh has not given you a heart to know, eyes to see, and ears to hear. To this day 5 I have led you 40 years in the wilderness. Your clothes have not grown old on you, and your shoes have not grown old on your feet. 6 You have not eaten bread, neither have you drunk wine or strong drink, that you may know that I am Yahweh your God. Deuteronomy 31:12 Assemble the people, the men and the women and the little ones, and the foreigners who are within your gates, that they may hear, and that they may learn, and fear Yahweh their God, and observe to do all the words of this law. Deuteronomy 33:1 This is the blessing with which Moses the man of God blessed the children of Israel before his death. 2 He said, Yahweh came from Sinai, and rose from Seir to them. He shone from Mount Paran. He came from the 10,000s of holy ones. At his right hand was a fiery law for them. Deuteronomy 34:4 Yahweh said to him, This is the land which I swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, saying, I will give it to your offspring. I have caused you to see it with your eyes, but you shall not go over there. 5 So Moses the servant of Yahweh died there in the land of Moab, according to Yahweh's word. 6 He buried him in the valley in the land of Moab opposite Beth Peor, but no man knows where his tomb is to this day. 8 The children of Israel wept for Moses in the plains of Moab 30 days, until the days of weeping in the mourning for Moses were ended. 4Q40 Deuteronomy M Language, Hebrew. Date, before 51 BC Location, Qumran Cave 4 Deuteronomy 3:18 I commanded you at that time, saying, 1. Yahweh your God has given you this land to possess it. You shall pass over armed before your brothers the children of Israel, all the men of valor. 19 But your wives, and your little ones, and your livestock too, I know that you have much livestock, shall live in your cities which I have given you. 20 Until Yahweh your God gives rest to your brothers, as to you, and they also possess the land which Yahweh your God gives them beyond the Jordan. Then you shall each return to his own possession, which I have given you. 21 I commanded Joshua at that time, saying, Your eyes have seen all that Yahweh your God has done to these 2 kings. So shall Yahweh do to all the kingdoms where you go over. 22 You shall not fear them, for Yahweh your God himself fights for you. Deuteronomy 4:32 For ask now of the days that are past, which were before you, since the day that God created man on the earth, and from the one end of the sky to the other, whether there has been anything as this great thing is, or has been heard like it. 33 Did a people ever hear the voice of God speaking out of the middle of the fire, as you have heard, and live? 34 Or has God tried to go and take a nation for himself, from among another nation, by trials, by signs, by wonders, by war, by a mighty hand, by an outstretched arm, and by great terrors, according to all that Yahweh your God did for you, in Egypt before your eyes? Deuteronomy 7:18 You shall not be afraid of them. You shall remember well what Yahweh your God did to Pharaoh, and to all Egypt. 19 The great trials, which your eyes saw, the signs, the wonders, the mighty hand, and the outstretched arm, by which Yahweh your God brought you out, so shall Yahweh your God do to all the peoples of whom you are afraid. 20 Moreover Yahweh your God will send the hornet among them, until those who are left, and hide themselves, perish from before you. 21 You shall not be scared of them, for Yahweh your God is among you, a great and awesome God. 22 Yahweh your God will cast out those nations before you little by little. You may not consume them at once, lest the animals of the field increase on you. 1. This scroll matches the mount in the words used, but the spelling of the words is consistently different, using many more vowel letters than the mount. 2. This point in the scroll is one of several locations, when a later scribe corrected the error of an earlier scribe. This translation is based on the corrected version of the manuscript. 4Q41 Deuteronomy N Language, Hebrew. Date 31 BC Location, Qumran Cave 4 Deuteronomy 5:1 Moses called to all Israel, and said to them, Hear, Israel, the statutes and the ordinances which I speak in your ears today, that you may learn them, and observe to do them. 2 Yahweh our God made a covenant with us. In Horeb 3 Yahweh didn't make this covenant with our fathers, but with us, even us today, who are all of us here alive today. 4 Yahweh spoke with you face to face on the mountain out of the middle of the fire. 5 I stood between Yahweh and you at that time, to show you Yahweh your God's words, for you were afraid because of the fire, and didn't go up onto the mountain, saying, 6 I am Yahweh your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. 7 You shall have no other gods before me. 8 You shall not make a carved image for yourself, any likeness of what is in heaven above, or what is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. 9 You shall not bow yourself down to them, nor serve them, for I, Yahweh, your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children, on the third and on the fourth generation of those who hate me. 10. Showing loving kindness to thousands of those who love me, and keep my commandments. 11. You shall not take the name of Yahweh your God in vain, for Yahweh will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. 12. Observe the Sabbath day, to keep it holy, as Yahweh your God commanded you. 13. You shall labor 6 days, and do all your work. 14. But the seventh day is a Sabbath to Yahweh your God, in which you shall not do any work, you, your daughter, your male servant, nor your female servant, your ox, nor your donkey, nor your livestock, nor your stranger, who is within your gates, that your male servant and your female servant may rest as well as you. 15. You shall remember that you were a servant in the land of Egypt, and Yahweh your God brought you out of there by a mighty hand, and by an outstretched arm. Therefore Yahweh your God commanded you to keep the Sabbath day, to sanctify it, because in 6 days Yahweh made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all which is in them, and he rested on the seventh day. Therefore, Yahweh blessed the seventh day to sanctify it. 16. Honor your father and your mother, as Yahweh your God commanded you, that your days may be long, and that it may go well with you, in the land which Yahweh your God gives you. 17. You shall not murder. 18. You shall not commit adultery. 19. You shall not steal. 20. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. 21. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, neither shall you covet your neighbor's house, his field, his male servant, his female servant, his ox, his donkey, or anything that is your neighbor's. 22. Yahweh spoke these words to all your assembly on the mountain out of the middle of the fire, darkness, cloud, and of thick darkness with a great voice. He added more. He wrote them on 2 stone tablets, and gave them to me. 23. When you heard the voice out of the middle of the darkness, while the mountain was burning with fire, you came near to me, even all the heads of your tribes, and your elders. 24. And you said, Behold, Yahweh our God has shown us his glory and his greatness, and we have heard his voice out of the middle of the fire. We have seen today that Yahweh does speak with man, and he lives. 25. Now therefore why should we die? For this great fire will consume us. If we hear Yahweh our God's voice any more, then we shall die. 26. For who is there of all flesh, that has heard the voice of the living God speaking out of the middle of the fire, as we have, and lived? 27. Go near, and hear all that Yahweh our God shall say, and tell us all that Yahweh our God tells you, and we will hear it, and do it. 28. Yahweh heard the voice of your words, when you spoke to me, and Yahweh said to me, I have heard the voice of the words of this people, which they have spoken to you. They have well said all that they have spoken. 29. Oh, that there were such a heart in them, that they would fear me, and keep all my commandments always, that it might be well with them, and with their children forever. 31. But as for you, stand here by me, and I will tell you all the commandment, and the statutes, and the ordinances, which you shall teach them, that they may do them in the land which I give them to possess it. 32. You shall observe to do therefore as Yahweh your God has commanded you. You shall not turn away to the right hand, or to the left. 33. You shall walk in all the way which Yahweh your God has commanded you, that you may live, and that it may be well with you, and that you may prolong your days in the land which you shall possess. Deuteronomy 6. 1. Now this is the commandment, the statutes, and the ordinances, which Yahweh your God commanded to teach you, that you might do them in the land where you go over to possess it. Deuteronomy 8. 5. You shall consider in your heart that as a man disciplines his son, so Yahweh your God disciplines you. 6. You shall keep the commandments of Yahweh your God, to walk in his ways, and to love him. 7. For Yahweh your God brings you into a good and spacious land, a land of brooks of water, of springs, and underground water flowing into valleys and hills. 8. A land of wheat and barley, and vines, fig trees and pomegranates, a land of olive trees and honey. 9. A land in which you shall eat bread without scarceness, you shall not lack anything in it, a land whose stones are iron, and out of whose hills you may dig copper. 10. You shall eat, and be full, and you shall bless Yahweh your God for the good land, which he has given you. 4. 2. Deuteronomy O. Language, Hebrew. Date, 7550 BC. Location, Qumran Cave. 4. Deuteronomy 2. 8. So we passed by from our brothers the children of Esau, who dwell in Seir. From the way of the Rabbah from Elath and from Ezion Geber we turned and passed by the way of the wilderness of Moab. Deuteronomy 4. 30. When you are in oppression, and all these things have come on you, in the latter days you shall return to Yahweh your God, and listen to his voice. 31. For Yahweh your God is a merciful God. He will not fail you, neither destroy you, nor forget the covenant of your fathers which he swore to them. 32. For ask now of the days that are past, which were before you, since the day that God created man on the earth, and from the one end of the sky to the other, whether there has been anything as this great thing is, or has been heard like it. 33. Did a people ever hear the voice of God speaking out of the middle of the fire, as you have heard, and live? 34. Or has God tried to go and take a nation for himself, from among another nation, by trials, by signs, by wonders, by war, by a mighty hand, by an outstretched arm, and by great terrors, according to all that Yahweh your God did for you, in Egypt before your eyes. Deuteronomy 5:1 Moses called to all Israel, and said to them, Hear, Israel, the statutes and the ordinances which I speak in your ears today, that you may learn them, and observe to do them. 2 Yahweh our God made a covenant with us in Horeb. 3 Yahweh didn't make this covenant with our fathers, but with us, even us, who are all of us here alive today. 5 I stood between Yahweh and you at that time to show you Yahweh's word, for you were afraid because of the fire, and didn't go up onto the mountain, saying, 8 You shall not make a carved image for yourself, any likeness of what is in heaven above, or what is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. 9 You shall not bow yourself down to them, nor serve them, for I, Yahweh, your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children, and on the third and on the fourth generation of those who hate me. 10 And showing loving kindness to thousands of those who love me, and keep my commandments. Deuteronomy 28:14 And shall not turn away from any of the words which I command you today, to the right hand, or to the left, to go after other gods to serve them. 15 But it shall come to pass, if you will not listen to Yahweh your God's voice, to observe to do all his commandments, and his statutes which I command you today, that all these curses will come on you, and overtake you. 18 The fruit of your body, the fruit of your ground, the increase of your livestock, and the young of your flock will be cursed. 33 A nation, which you don't know, will eat the fruit of your ground, and all of your work. You will only be oppressed and crushed always. 35 Yahweh will strike you in the knees and in the legs with a sore boil, of which you cannot be healed, from the sole of your foot to the crown of your head. 36 Yahweh will bring you, and your king, whom you will set over yourselves, to a nation that you have not known, you nor your fathers. There you will serve other gods of wood and stone. 47 Because you didn't serve Yahweh your God with joyfulness, and with gladness of heart, by reason of the abundance of all things. 48 Therefore you will serve your enemies, whom Yahweh sends against you, in hunger, in thirst, in nakedness, and in lack of all things. He will put an iron yoke on your neck, until he has destroyed you. 49 Yahweh will bring a nation against you from far, from the end of the earth, as the eagle flies, a nation whose language you will not understand. 51 And they will eat the fruit of your livestock, and the fruit of your ground, until you are destroyed. They also won't leave you grain, new wine, or oil, the increase of your livestock, or the young of your flock, until they have caused you to perish. 52 They will besiege you in all your gates, until your high and fortified walls come down, in which you trusted, throughout all your land. They will besiege you in all your gates throughout all your land, which Yahweh your God has given you. 53 You will eat the fruit of your own body, the flesh of your sons and of your daughters, whom Yahweh your God has given you, in the siege and in the distress with which your enemies will distress you. 58 If you will not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that you may fear this glorious and fearful name, Yahweh your God. 59 Then Yahweh will make your plagues fearful, and the plagues of your offspring, even great plagues, and of long duration, and severe sicknesses, and of long duration. 61 Also every sickness and every plague, which is not written in the book of this law, Yahweh will bring them on you, until you are destroyed. 62 You will be left few in number, even though you were as the stars of the sky for multitude, because you didn't listen to Yahweh your God's voice. Deuteronomy 29:23 And that all of its land is sulfur, salt, and burning, that it is not sown, doesn't produce, nor does any grass grow in it, like the overthrow of Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboim, which Yahweh overthrew in his anger, and in his wrath. 24 Even all the nations will say, Why has Yahweh done thus to this land? What does the heat of this great anger mean? 25 Then men will say, Because they abandoned the covenant of Yahweh, the God of their fathers, which he made with them when he brought them out of the land of Egypt. 26 And went, and served other gods, and worshipped them, gods that they didn't know, and that he had not given to them. 4Q43 Deuteronomy P. Language, Hebrew. Date, 7550 BC. Location, Qumran Cave 4. Deuteronomy 6:4 Hear, Israel, Yahweh is our God. Yahweh is 1:5 You shall love Yahweh your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. 6 These words, which I command you today, shall be on your heart. 7 And you shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. 8 You shall bind them for a sign on your hand, and they shall be for frontlets between your eyes. 9 You shall write them on the doorposts of your house, and on your gates. 10 It shall be, when Yahweh your God brings you into the land which he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give you great and goodly cities, which you didn't build, 11 And houses full of all good things, which you didn't fill, and cisterns dug out, which you didn't dig, vineyards and olive trees, which you didn't plant, and you shall eat, and be full. 18 You shall do that, which is right and good in Yahweh's sight, that it may be well with you, and that you may go in and possess the good land, which Yahweh swore to your fathers. 4Q44 Deuteronomy Q. Language, Hebrew. Date 51 BC. Location, Qumran Cave 4. Deuteronomy 32:9-4 Yahweh's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. 10 He found him in a desert land, in the waste howling wilderness. He surrounded him, he cared for him, he kept him as the apple of his eye. 37 Yahweh will say, where are their gods, the rock in which they took refuge? 38 Which ate the fat of their sacrifices, and drank the wine of their drink offering. Let them rise up and help you, let them be your protection. 39 See now that I myself am he. There is no God with me. I kill and I make alive, I wound and I heal. There is no one who can deliver out of my hand. 44 I lift up my hand to heaven and declare, as I live forever. 41 If I sharpen my glittering sword, my hand grasps it in judgment. I will take vengeance on my adversaries, and will repay those who hate me. 42 I will make my arrows drunk with blood. My sword shall devour flesh with the blood of the slain and the captives, and from the head of the leaders of the enemy. 43 Rejoice, heavens, with his people, and bow down to him, all gods, for he will avenge the blood of his sons. He will take vengeance on his adversaries, and avenge those who hate him, and will make atonement for his land, and for his people,